Hello, Wisnu. How's it going? Thanks again for taking part in the workshop. Thanks for sending in our second part of this sequence here. So let's take a look. Looking really cool. Yeah, looking super sick, man. I'm looking forward to digging into this. I think we can push some poses and some clarity. I think we can push a bunch of stuff. But first off, let's focus on a technical thing. Since you've asked me to talk about constraints for two-handed weapons, what I recommend using, I have an Anibot tool for this as well. Anibot has a tool, but there's a really old script here called ZV Parenting Master, I think it's called. It's this guy, so I'll send you a link to this. And there's also a video here on how to install it. It's just a Maya script you can install. Basically, it allows you to create parent setups a lot easier than making like groups and making different things you have to switch. You can do it all from here, which is super useful. So let's say, for instance, we've got the script open now. We've got your scene open. I'm going to save this quickly as a new version. So let's go to your folder in here. Let's just do whatever, 02, just in case we mess up and have to go back. So we're using FK here. Yes, we're using FK here. Cool. So it's going to be probably easier to do two-handed stuff in IK for the frames that they're in IK. So that's a separate issue that I didn't consider. I just assumed this was in IK already. But I see that you're going to have some issues. Here it might not be too big a deal to use it. Let's find a section where you're using two hands and would want to use this tool. So let's do the other guy and let's do this little section in here. Cool. So you probably want, as soon as the hand gets to the weapon, so on this frame, you want to switch to IK. So let's just select all the controls and key it, go to the next frame and key it. So all the FKs, bump, bump. So this is the frame that the hands attach, if I'm correct, or maybe this frame. So let's just make sure all of those are keyed on this frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to manually match this up. I have a script that's going to help with that, but it's Anibot. This just copies the exact board space position of this. So if I then switch to IK, which I can't exactly remember where it is. I do have a picker for this. Let's get the picker up. It's the hybrid 2. And let's just, we got this guy, and let's bring in the second one for the other guy. And we'll switch the namespace here, so we got one for each. Cool, so let me find where the switch is. Is it this guy? Yeah. So over one frame, I'm going to key the switch here. So it goes to IK. It's going to completely mess up. But I should be able to just paste the word space from the previous frame. Let me undo. I don't think I copied the correct frame. So we want it from this frame. I'm going to copy the word space here. If not, you have to do this manually. Obviously, you don't have Anibot, so you might have to do this manually, which is very annoying. I'm going to turn this on and paste this to here. So it looks like the rotations are broken, but we can fix that. Maybe I'll just zero these out. And then I'll... Okay, good. The IK is deciding to break. Good. We love Maya. We love things breaking. We very much don't. It's very frustrating. So what's going on there? I think it's to do with the elbow pole vector is on the wrong side of the arm. Did that fix the wrist? Looks like it. So I'm going to flick between these frames and make sure that it's mostly working. Cool. If not, you just have to manually place this instead of using the script that I use to snap it. There might be some free snapping scripts. I can't think of any to mind. I just use Animbots. So I'm going to line this up exactly where I want it. So let's just say we want to have it here. I won't perfectly match the fingers and such for now because we're just doing a quick demo. I'm going to make sure that this elbow is... I'm going to put the elbow in follow mode. So it follows the wrist. Again, I'm going to have to move it over here. Oops. Let's grab that elbow. Let's move it over here. Cool. Maybe we can make it a bit closer. Something like here. And now this hand is attached for this one frame, but obviously it's not following yet. And when we switch back to FK, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for all of the frames, look, there's 2 hands on this. So until this frame, I'm going to delete everything in between, and we're going to switch it to IK for all of these frames. And then it can come off on this frame. Cool. But obviously now the hand, we get into the IK on this frame. So I'll do a frame before so I know which one it is. And I'm going to delete all of these keys in between for both the IK controls actually. Right up until that last frame where we switch. And then, so we have like a section here. But what I can do now is if I select the sword controller here. Cool. I think, I can't remember the exact order. It might be this way around. So it might be the sword and then the hand. And then we can press attach on here. Oh, reference file. Can't group because it's a read-only hierarchy. Okay, so there's a certain step we have to do quickly. Open the reference file, select the object, right-click on attach objects button, and create parent groups. Save the file. Okay, this might take a second, so let's quickly do this. So there's an extra step to make rigs compatible with this script. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to open up the hybrid rig itself. So let's do that. We're using the MA version. And then what did it say we need to do? So once we've got the script open, we need to select this object. So it was the sword, the main sword controller. We select that object, right click on attach objects button, create parent groups. So is that this one? No. Maybe it's in here. Curve. Don't see it there. Just going to read what these are and see. Oh, we have to hold down right click, create parent groups, translation, available attributes. I think available attributes is probably all available attributes. So that's correct. So we'll save the rig. Let's make sure there's no other steps. Bring this back up. Right click and tag structure, create parent groups is what it said to do. So there's different ones, and we did this one on this controller. Okay, parent groups created for one object. Cool. So let's save it. I did it twice. Maybe that could mess that up, but it should be fine. I'll reopen your scene. And now it should work. So there's a little bit of setup with this script. That's unlike the unimport one, which doesn't have any setup. So I think you do the object that's going to be leading, and then the object is going to be following. And if we're on the correct frame where we swap to the IK, which we are, I can attach here. So all that's done now is it's created a constraint for that hand. Has it though? Oh, okay, this is parented under something else. Maybe that's causing issues. This is parented under the other hand. Let's see. This is parented under this hand. So maybe the setup isn't exactly what we want. Let's check the constraints timeline. No. This frame. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's this one, then this one, then attach. Okay, didn't work that way around. This one, this one. So a little bit of figuring out. I've not used the script in a long time. Okay, so I think I need to make the hand keyable as well. So I'm going to make both the IKs have these groups so that we don't run into these issues. So let's go back to the rig. And you probably want to save a version of the rig and update back and forth. That might save your ass, just in case you don't want to break the rig. I'm going to open the picker in. I'm just going to grab the IK controls quickly. So let's grab those IKs, both of them. Create parent, for whatever groups. We'll set this back the way it was and then save and then reopen the scene. So we're just kind of updating the rig to allow this. A little bit complex, a little bit more complex than I thought it would be. I've used this rig in a studio before where I guess they had done all of this preliminary stuff for us. So let's try child, then parent. Maybe that's the way around that these constraints work. Cool. So this frame we switch, create the parent constraint, and now if I move this is going to follow. Great. So now that's going to follow, but unlike a normal parent constraint, we can still move this around. So you can still adjust the hand. So on this last frame here, before we switch, sorry, this is the last frame before we switch. I'm going to just tween machine this back 100%, so it's not moving. Same thing on this as well, on the elbow. So now, for that section, look, we're in IK. When we're in IK, it's attached to this, and when we're not, we're in FK. And do we go to IK any other time? I guess we're going to be two-handed up here, so... Oh no, we're not two-handed up here. I guess maybe you want to be two-handed up here. I would probably be two-handed for this swing. I think that'd be cool. And then you can let go. So you would basically switch to IK on those frames, match it up, and the constraint setup is going to be there. The great thing about this script as well, though, is that you can... let's look at the IK hand. Let's go to a frame where it's happening. One thing it does, of course, is it lets you move things. So you can key on top of this. So whilst it's constrained, I can move this around still and set keys, which is really nice. What you can also do is you can like attach and detach objects on certain frames. And then you can offset the frame that's attached if you go to the select constraint and snap groups. So here, this is the frame that this snaps on. So this is the frame that it changes to the constraint. So before this, the IK is not constraint, and then on this frame, it is constraint. So if you move the timing of this, you also have to select the constraint group here, and then offset this. So you offset this is where that constraint is happening. Cool. So I would do that for all of the two-handed stuff. So you just need to make all the controls which were involved, have those parent groups in the rig file. Cool. And let me know if you have any issues with that. Cool. And then I will pause quickly and we will go back to doing, looking at the review. Actually doing the review. Okay. We should be back up and rolling. Awesome. So we're in Sync Sketch and I want to talk about this stuff. I think the music's cool. You've obviously got the music from the reference, but maybe you should animate without the music. And the reason you should do that is because this is going to limit your timing a little bit more and make you feel like you need to copy the timing from the reference. Whereas if you don't have that on, if I mute this, you could do some retiming and not feel weird about it. I wouldn't worry about the sound for now. You know, if you did want to add sound after the fact, you could do that manually. But I think the sound right now might be constraining your timing a little bit to what the reference is doing. Cool. So let's talk about some stuff. I think posing wise, this is cool. This is working. Something you might want to do a little bit more for this down. Let's turn on the tracing paper. Whoops. So whenever you lean forward, you usually have to come back a little bit. So I'd probably come back a little bit. I'd counter rotate to keep the head in the same space, but come back a little bit for this anticipation. I think that's going to help. That feel nice and strong, and the body mechanics feel correct. So you go from here to here. Cool. And then when you take off, you need the opposite to be true. So I think you're kind of missing a push-off pose. Maybe this could be the push-off pose, but it kind of feels a bit could be pushed. So I think you need to push more forward onto the leg that you're pushing off. You can counter rotate with the head. And this again is a lot of what we're going to be talking about always with a lot of body mechanics stuff is going from the spine shape. And by the spine shape, I mean between the hip and the shoulders, is going from this reverse C shape here to this C, right? Cool. And this is a cool pose. I almost wish, let's make sure that this push off kind of gets that angle a bit more. If we're a bit more side on as well, that's going to help. Look like the heel is landing instead of pushing off there. So I want to get into this pose really snappily. I think maybe during this up here with the legs and with the body coming forward more like we talked about, maybe you can start the arms a little bit more. You can start getting the elbow leading. And that hand could be in a cool pose, a bit more open maybe. So you start leading this elbow up, and that way you can get into this pose a little bit earlier and holding it a little bit longer. I would keep the sword up for a few more frames. I probably wouldn't come... Maybe you could go behind the head. It's kind of cool. Something I would definitely do is choose something to lead a bit more in here. And I think what would be cool to lead is if you lead with the backhand. The backhand goes and that pulls the body through, which allows the sword to come through, right? So you have your backhand here. And I would start to really pull that in and get that back here. So by this part, we already have this really cool bent pose here where you have that flow through the arms. And this really strong line of action through the body, which you have. You get this really strong, clear pose, which feels great. Whenever you can get like a clean line through like the legs and the body and also through the shoulders, it's always going to make things feel super strong and nice. So I think that pushing that will help us here. So again, it's trying to get that arm up so we can see this pose for a bit longer. And then it's pushing some of this stuff. And then what you can do is you can have the body landing as you're doing, which is super cool. But I would keep the reverse shape maybe. And with that, you can delay the sword a little bit more so that you get a bigger spacing for the frame of impact. Whoops, love when Sync Sketch just draws random balls, but I mean, it kind of works. Boom. Cool. So we get that really cool. And then you get the big spacing with the body taking the weight. So when you take the weight, you have to come back a little bit more, probably. This is all good. Try and get this clean line through the shoulders if you can. So it's one clean line, boom, and you get this hit. So yeah, I'm always looking at flows between the shoulders for really strong posing. Like here, you get like a one clean line through the shoulder line and through the arms. It's going to make things feel super strong and nice. Cool. So I might even use this frame and delay the arm just a tiny bit more. Get into the reverse spine shape. So it's the spine reversal is leading. So you're going from your reverse C shape to your C shape here, and that's leading. And then the arm here is dragging behind. And then you get the big hit on that last frame. That could feel really nice. Boom, boom. Sometimes you want things to be a bit more connected. Sometimes you want to push. I think this will work. Maybe it won't. It's worth experimenting with though. And I think it would look cool. Cool. Boom, boom. And on that frame of impact, I think we can get the sword. Maybe I'd have the sword a bit higher here and try not to overlap the silhouettes. And then on the frame of impact, you could have the sword come down, right? So you get that change of shape and you can see that this is taking the weight of it. And maybe you have a bit of reaction by the arm tightening a bit when it gets hit, which would be cool. So you go from, yeah, a bit straighter to a bit tighter. And then I'll try not to overlap the sword on the head here. I'll try and keep that silhouette clear and keep the swords up here a bit more. So there's a gap. You have this negative space. There's a bit more clarity. Cool. I want to look at this first guy's slice. I haven't really looked at it yet. So when this guy's running, I think it's cool. You got a few frames at the start here where he looks frozen in space, and maybe that's just like the camera and the character contrasting each other, but this is like completely frozen for a frame, so you want to make sure that's at least moving a little bit. I think you could probably, during this run, up to this point, get like a big anticipation. So he's running, boom, boom, boom. Just before you get more of a twist anticipation and then slice through. So by this point, I would imagine the back arm is further around. The body is more twisted. I probably won't be able to draw this because I'm not good enough, but... Can't draw it amazingly, but something like that. And that way, when you do this, or maybe you can hold it and do it when you go into the knee pose. Whilst you're getting to the knee pose, you're also getting that more twisted pose. So the shoulder line is coming probably this way. And as such, you're getting this cool anticipation this way. As your body's doing whatever. So yeah, I'll try and get that arm out over here. Drawing like a ginormous one. And that way you get like this big twist anticipation. Hopefully that's clear. And then you could have a bit more contrast. So maybe what would work, what would work here is if instead you had the spine reversed when you go into the knees, right? So you're this way. So your spine is this way. With that arm anticipating back, as we talked about, and this arm down. So that's behind the shoulder line. It's hard to see. And then that allows us to go into the forward pose, into that reverse shape. And the reverse shape can lead it, whilst that back arm is still dragging behind a bit, coming through. Boom. And then you can get that nice big spacing in here and that change for that slice. It's going to feel great. Here, your head spacing is a little bit wibbly wobbly. Like the head kind of goes out to the side to this frame and then it bounces back and forward. I would just try and have a clean head arc and have the body support it underneath. So the head is really cleanly coming up into that final pose. The final pose is here. So yeah, you're really cleanly going. Let's just delete some of these random drawings. You're really cleanly going from here to here. So as you can see, like the head could basically just go within this spacing. You can add a slight arc to it maybe so it can come around and back. But the head spacing is just going to be within this section. And the body underneath is what's supporting it. Hopefully that's somewhat clear. That will help some stuff. So there's push off. I think the push off feels a bit weak, and I think what could help with that push off is maybe this arm coming out to support this arm. And then it can tuck back in by the time you get around here. Cool. Turn off some of this. This is feeling pretty good. I think maybe you want to keep the sword a little bit visible through some of this in the rotation so it doesn't get lost in the silhouette. That could help. Cool. So this pose here, I think you really want to go from this reverse shape in here where the body is back and the head is forward. And then when you come up, I think you want to push the body forward more and reverse the spine for this anticipation. So the body has moved forward in space, the head has moved back in space, and we've reversed our spine shape from a C to a reverse C in here. And that way this can also help support this arm in here also. I think that's going to help significantly. Cool. Looks like it drew the lines on the wrong frame. Love that. Yeah, and then you're coming into this way anyway. So yeah, I think it's just if you get this and then you come back into a C, but obviously we're on the other side of him now, so it's the other way. But I think that will help with the contrast of it. I think you could probably, I likely have this breakdown, but then it kind of gets stuck. So it has this big spacing, but then it gets stuck and then it starts to move again. I think maybe what will help is on this frame if you straighten the arm more. Right. So go here. You start to break down out of this. Here, 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 straight. And then maybe you could do a straighter arc on it. So maybe this could be somewhere here. Maybe you could do a bit more of an under slicing arc. Bump, bump. And maybe you could lead more with the elbow through here, right? So you're kind of delaying it. At this point, maybe it's coming towards camera a bit. And then at this point, I want to see that miss. I think that's kind of missing from it. I want to see the sword here dragging behind and missing him, like going over his silhouette, I think. This might be a little bit too wacky. So maybe I would, have that arc, at least of the sword, go less low here. But I think something like that is going to be really cool and help you. Cool, so we get into this pose, nice. Here we're doing a slice, but I don't really read the slice at the moment. I think you need to hold in this pose. I think the body is leading a bit too soon, maybe. I'm trying to think about it. You want to get to here, though. I think you want to get this a bit cleaner, like the flow through the sword of the body into the arms. If you can. Get some of that flows between the body and the legs. Cool. So here, I think the arm anticipation. Maybe you can keep this wider for a bit longer to help the pose be a bit less muddled. I think that's going to help. And then I think maybe the sword angle doesn't need to come so far over the head. It can be more towards camera this way. Again, getting that flow between the shoulders would be great wherever possible. And then this starts to straighten. Great, love that. Yeah, and then you can arc that under as you've got. Maybe you could see a little bit of it through here or under, whatever angle it is. I think that would be good. Cool. Love that spin. I think maybe the leg can lead a little bit more on this part. Maybe you can come up a bit more here. So you can see this back leg underneath. And then you really kick down with that leg into where the next pose is going to be. To here. Is it recording right? Yep. Cool. So maybe this one frame is a bit much, but it might be cool. And this way we're getting into a really strong reverse shape here, like this. And we're eventually getting into our nice pose in here. So we get like this really nice contrast of this really clean flow. And then we're getting into this eventually, which is like a reverse of it, right? I like dragging the arm here. I think maybe you could continue to drag it a little bit more. So instead of here, it's up a bit more. I would love to have the sword more straight for this breakdown. So it's like straighter and then it pops out. Like the elbow is really leading, like boom, like hit. I think it would be good. Bump, bump, like you got. And obviously you want to try and get this as clean as possible, the line through the body and the thing, which I think you've done really well, actually. It's pretty clean. You get that really strong line through the body and into the sword. Really clean flow. Boom, boom. Cool. I'm just looking at the one guy at the moment. We'll look at the other guy in a minute, I think. Here, I think you're running into issues with mechanics a bit. The biggest of which are... Let's think about it. Maybe we can look at the ref for this, see how they're stepping through. Where are we at? Here. Oh, we cut here. Okay. So no wonder we're having issues with the mechanics here, because this is where we're having to make it up. Cool. I think maybe you don't want to move the body as much forward on this first step. You can move a little bit, so your weight's on this leg, obviously. But maybe you can move a bit less and then keep it moving here. And what you want to do is get into a clean push off here. And I think this would be a bit higher, right? Your hip line would be a bit higher. Boom, 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 boom. And I'll try and get that arm visible in its own silhouette back here for this anticipation. Cool. So yeah, if you come a little bit less far forward on this step through here, it will allow you to not get stuck in like forward and back. Here you get kind of stuck. Like you get all the way forward during this part to here, and then you don't really get any more far forward through this. So instead, if this doesn't go quite as far, if you only get to like here, then you still have a little bit of distance you can travel when you get into this pose in the forward and back, which I think is going to help you a lot. Cool. This pose is cool. I think you can lead with this arm. So this arm leads, then the body, then the chest. I'd get this round a bit faster. And maybe open the hand here, so you get like a cool like where the hand is open, like a fencing open hand would be cool. This pose is super sick. Love that. Here, feel like your mechanics have some issues. I think a big part of that is how your head is kind of coming down independently here. I wonder about this pose. I wonder if we could push it since we're this way. I would love to hold in this for a little bit longer as well. I love this pose. I'd love if we could get a few more frames held in here. This is a super sick pose. Feels great. Twist feels great. Love it. Let's go to the stroke. So yeah, I'd love if we get into this. The foot's a bit broken here. I think you need to bring that foot around a little bit to support pose. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. And then I think your biggest issue is that you're coming in to I would straighten the spine up, I think. I think I would have the body a bit further forward. I would have the spine a bit straighter. Just thinking about it. It's an awkward one, for sure. There's something in there. Maybe we could see what they're doing in the ref. Okay, it's here. Okay, I see what you're doing here. Okay, so this down is actually an anticipation to flick the sword up. Whoops, let's go back to this. So maybe you can go into this, but a bit less extreme. I think a bit less extreme in the spine here. And then I would hold it for a little bit longer before you start doing this anticipation. And then the anticipation, you want the body to lead whilst the hand stays. So I'd keep the hand where it was and for a few more frames and then peel it off and push up the moment they don't feel super connected. This guy's reacting a bit too soon as well. So yeah, I'd have that guy react a bit later so it really feels like it's pushing off and weighty. Cool, and then through here. So he's pushing up here, but his root is just coming up. So when you're pushing up here, I think you want to be pushing forward also. So you're really pushing onto this front leg as you're pushing up. And as you're doing that, you're going to get in a reverse spine as well. And that's going to help lead this, like the body weight is pulling it up because your spine had to reverse to do so. That's a big part of this. And that way you don't have to move yourself far forward here. You can just bring this leg through and then step into this, which cool. I think here, this pose is a bit muddled. I think maybe it would be better if you pushed the reverse spine a little bit more. Reverse spine. And you got that sword. The sword arm isn't too bad. Maybe keep that similar. But this arm in here, can't really read it. Maybe you need to get the forearm up a little bit. Just thinking about the angles. Not the best drawing, but I think this feels a bit low as well. I think you want this to cut the body. I think you'd raise that up to cut the body. I think you want a little bit more lead and follow as well. So you want this shoulder to come around much faster than this back arm, which is delaying. So you, by this point, this arm is fully out of the way. And you're really just slicing through. And you get that nice lead where the one arm leads it, which pulls the body, which pulls the arm. So you get that nice push, 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 lead and follow. Obviously it's going to feel nice and connected. And you can go from the bend to the straight as well for that delay and then cut through. That's going to feel nice. This pose, feel like could be stronger. Maybe if the sword was just horizontal and flowed through that arm, and then you got that nice clear shoulder line and stuff. I think that's stronger. I'll try something like that. Yeah, I think definitely a straighter thing there will be stronger. This guy's wobbling around a bunch. Love this bit. And cool, we're going to look at the other guy quickly in case there's any bigger stuff. He's been mostly solid, I think. His mechanics feel pretty good. There's a few bits like here where the body and the arm feel somewhat unconnected. Like here, maybe I'd go back a bit less. So that you can have this reverse spine a bit stronger. This way. Maybe try and get the sword in its own silhouette space. Just rough it out. And then you could have the lead. This then drop back to lead the body as that arm. Still somewhat delayed. It's hard when you got so many drawings. Somewhat delayed this way. So you get the body leading. Oops. So you get the body nicely leading before the sword arm. You get a nice bit of lead and follow. Boom. And you can snap this through. Maybe this could be a bit more dragged on this frame. Boom. And then hit on here. Cool. And some of these push-offs need some polish where this is changes the angle of this because he's pushing the sword. There's definitely going to be some stuff in there. Cool, this little hop, let's look at it. Thinking about it. Feels okay, I think. By here, everything's kind of moving at the same time, so I'd probably want to lead and follow a little bit more. Maybe the sword could be a bit straighter here and then be coming up here. Coming up here. You know, so you're delaying the sword as it comes around and then boom, boom. Kind of want this hit to happen around the same frame. So maybe you could raise the hands up and then get like an actual hit straighten So maybe during this section, the arms are a bit higher to allow for a contrast as you come down with them for this bit. I think that could work. Cool, that push-off stuff we talked about a little bit already. This stuff's feeling good, I like this. How's he looking at the end? I think it's mostly solid. No major notes on that stuff. Cool. All right. I think that's a good amount of notes to keep going with. We focused mostly on the yellow guy, but I think the red guy's a bit more solid throughout. There's definitely some stuff we can push, but we'll leave that for when we're a bit further in. Because I think for the current stage, I think he's fundamentally working a bit better. Awesome. All right. Thanks again for sending it in. Let me know if you have any questions about that parenting stuff. I'll send you the links over, and let me know if you have any questions about any of these drawovers and notes. I'll of course give you the sync and all of that. All right. Awesome. See you next time.